Modern life moves with speed and noise and endless stimulation. Every moment a person wakes up, there is something asking for attention. A phone screen lights up with messages, social media shows thousands of images, videos begin playing automatically. Games promise quick excitement, news delivers constant updates, and entertainment platforms never run out of content. In this world, the human brain receives more stimulation in one day than people in the past experienced in many days inside the brain. There is a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine plays a powerful role in motivation, desire, pleasure, and reward. When a person eats delicious food, watches an exciting video, receives a message, or wins a game, the brain releases dopamine. This release creates a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction. The brain remembers the activity and encourages the person to repeat it again. First, this system helps humans survive and grow. In earlier times, dopamine helped people hunt food, build shelter, and work toward goals. The reward system pushed them to keep trying and improving. But in the modern world, the same system faces a new challenge. Endless stimulation surrounds people all the time. Easy rewards appear instantly, without effort. A person can scroll videos for hours, play games endlessly, or chase small bursts of excitement again and again. Because of this constant stimulation, the brain begins to change. Slowly, the mind becomes addicted to quick pleasure. A person finds it harder to focus on meaningful work. Simple activities like reading, studying, building skills, or thinking deeply begin to feel boring and difficult. The brain starts demanding more stimulation, more excitement, and more instant reward. Many people notice this change in their daily life. A student sits down to study, but reaches for the phone after a few minutes. A worker wants to finish an important task, but keeps checking notifications. A creative person wants to write, paint, or build something meaningful, but spends hours scrolling through entertainment instead. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the result of a brain overwhelmed by constant dopamine stimulation. Dopamine detox is a method that helps a person reset this system. It is not about removing dopamine from the brain, because dopamine is necessary for motivation and life itself. Instead, dopamine detox means stepping away from activities that flood the brain with constant easy pleasure. When a person reduces these high stimulation activities, the brain slowly returns to balance. During this process, the mind begins to rediscover simple satisfaction. Reading becomes enjoyable again. Working toward long-term goals becomes easier. Creativity begins to flow. Focus grows stronger, and patience returns. Imagine a person who wakes up in the morning and instead of immediately checking the phone, they spend time thinking, planning, and preparing for the day. The mind feels calm and clear. Work becomes more productive. The person starts achieving meaningful progress instead of chasing endless distractions. Dopamine detox is not about punishment. It is about freedom. It frees the mind from addiction to instant pleasure. It helps people take control of their attention, their time, and their energy. Many successful thinkers, entrepreneurs, athletes, and creators practice forms of dopamine detox without even using the name. They reduce distractions, protect their focus, and train their mind to work deeply for long periods. Their achievements often come not from talent alone, but from their ability to control where their attention goes. Throughout this book, you will explore the reality behind dopamine detox. You will see how modern habits shape the brain, how distractions steal motivation, and how simple changes can transform the way a person lives and thinks. Each chapter will present real-life situations, examples, and experiences that show how dopamine detox can change everyday life. you will see how students improve their learning, how professionals regain productivity, and how ordinary people rediscover joy in simple, meaningful activities. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness and progress. Every small step away from endless stimulation creates space for growth, clarity, and purpose. By understanding dopamine detox, a person begins a journey toward a stronger mind, a calmer life, and a deeper connection with meaningful goals. This journey begins with a simple question: what happens when the mind stops chasing constant pleasure and starts building real fulfillment? Chapter 1: The Hidden Addiction of the Modern Mind. This modern world looks exciting and full of opportunity. Everywhere a person looks, there are bright screens, fast information, and endless entertainment. Technology has given people comfort, connection, and knowledge at a level never seen before. Yet behind this progress, there is a quiet problem growing inside the minds of millions of people. Many people wake up in the morning, and the first thing they reach for is their phone. The eyes are still heavy with sleep, but the fingers already start scrolling. Messages, notifications, videos, and images begin to fill the mind before the day even starts. Minutes slowly become hours without the person even noticing. This habit feels normal today. Almost everyone does it. Students, professionals, parents, and even children spend large parts of their day looking at screens, moving from one form of entertainment to another. A person watches a short video, then another, and another. The brain keeps asking for the next piece of excitement. Inside the brain, dopamine plays a powerful role in this cycle. Every small reward releases dopamine. When a person sees a funny video, receives a like on social media, wins a game, or reads an exciting headline, the brain sends a signal of pleasure. This signal tells the mind that the activity is enjoyable and should be repeated. First, this seems harmless, but the brain begins to adapt when dopamine is released again and again. Through easy stimulation, the brain slowly expects more of it. Activities that once felt exciting become normal and then boring. The mind begins searching for stronger stimulation. This is the hidden addiction of the modern mind. It is not always obvious. Like alcohol or drugs, it hides behind daily habits, scrolling social media, watching endless videos, checking messages, or jumping from one app to another. The person believes they are relaxing, but the brain is being trained to depend on constant stimulation. Consider the example of a university student named Ali. Ali was a bright and ambitious student. When he first entered university, he had strong goals. He wanted to become an engineer and build a successful future. In the beginning, he studied with energy and focus. He enjoyed learning new ideas and solving difficult problems. But slowly new habits entered his life. Social media became a daily routine. At first, he checked it for a few minutes during breaks. Soon those minutes turned into longer sessions. Videos and posts filled his attention throughout the day. When Ali tried to study, his mind felt restless. The textbook seemed slow and boring compared to the excitement of short videos. His hand reached for the phone almost automatically. Every notification created a small spark of curiosity. Ali believed he simply lacked discipline, but the real reason was deeper. His brain had become used to quick dopamine rewards. Studying required patience, effort, and delayed results. The brain no longer enjoyed that process. Over time, Ali noticed his focus becoming weaker. He started forgetting information more easily. He delayed assignments and felt stress before exams. Even when he wanted to concentrate, his mind kept wandering toward distractions. Ali is not alone. Millions of people experience the same struggle. They want to focus. They want to build meaningful achievements. but their brain has been trained to chase quick pleasure instead of long-term effort. This cycle affects creativity as well. Many artists, writers, and thinkers once spent long hours exploring ideas quietly. Their minds had space to imagine, experiment, and create something new. Today, constant stimulation fills every empty moment. The mind rarely sits in silence long enough to produce deep thoughts. Imagine a painter who once spent hours observing the world around him, studying colors, shapes, and emotions. Now imagine the same painter constantly checking notifications, watching short clips, and moving from one distraction to another. The creative mind becomes scattered and restless. The same thing happens to professionals in offices. A worker sits in front of a computer, ready to complete an important task. But every few minutes a notification appears, an email arrives. A message pops up, a new headline catches attention. The mind jumps from one piece of information to another. At the end of the day, the person feels busy, but not productive. Many hours passed, yet little meaningful work was completed. This is the cost of constant dopamine stimulation. Another example is Sarah, a young woman who loved reading books. When she was younger, she could spend entire evenings lost in a story. Her imagination was strong, and reading brought her deep joy. As years passed, she began spending more time on social media. Short content replaced long stories. Her mind became used to quick bursts of entertainment. One day, Sarah picked up a novel she once loved. But after a few pages, she felt restless. Her mind wanted something faster, something more stimulating. She placed the book down and reached for her phone without even realizing it. This moment shows how deeply dopamine habits can shape behavior. The brain had been trained to prefer quick rewards over deeper experiences. The problem is not technology itself. Technology is a tool. It can educate, connect, and inspire. But when stimulation becomes constant, the brain loses balance. Dopamine detox begins with recognizing this hidden addiction. It starts with awareness. A person must see how small habits influence attention, motivation, and happiness. When people understand this cycle, they begin asking important questions. Why does my mind feel restless when there is no stimulation? Why do meaningful tasks feel difficult while entertainment feels effortless? Why do I check my phone even when I know it wastes time? These questions open the door to change. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Dopamine detox does not require abandoning modern life completely. Instead, it means creating space between the mind and constant stimulation. It means allowing the brain to experience quiet moments again. When stimulation decreases, the brain slowly resets. Activities that once seemed boring begin to regain their value. Reading becomes enjoyable. Thinking becomes clearer. Working toward long-term goals begins to feel satisfying again. Imagine Ali, the student, deciding to change his habits. He turns off unnecessary notifications and places his phone away while studying. At first, his mind feels uncomfortable. Silence feels strange. The urge to check the phone appears again and again. But with time, the brain adjusts. After several days, Ali notices something surprising. His concentration improves. He can study longer without feeling restless. His understanding of complex ideas becomes deeper. Sarah experiences a similar transformation. She decides to spend 1 hour each evening reading without checking her phone. At first, the habit feels difficult, but slowly her mind reconnects with the joy of stories. Her imagination becomes active again. These small changes show the beginning of dopamine detox. The mind starts breaking free from constant stimulation and rediscovers the power of focus, patience, and meaningful effort. Hidden addiction of the modern mind may be powerful, but it is not permanent. The brain has an amazing ability to adapt and change. When people become aware of their habits, they gain the power to reshape them. This journey of change begins with a simple realization. Not every pleasure leads to happiness, and not every moment of boredom is meaningless. Sometimes boredom is the door that leads to creativity, focus, and true fulfillment. Chapter 2. Understanding dopamine and the reward system of the brain. Before a person can truly understand dopamine detox, it is important to understand dopamine itself. Many people believe dopamine is simply a pleasure chemical, but the reality is much deeper and more powerful. Dopamine is part of the system that drives motivation, curiosity, learning, and achievement. It pushes humans to act, explore, and build their future. Inside the brain, there are billions of tiny cells called neurons. These neurons communicate with each other using chemical messengers. Dopamine is one of those messengers. When a person experiences something rewarding, the brain releases dopamine and sends a signal that says this action is valuable. Remember it and repeat it. This system helped humans survive for thousands of years. Imagine early humans searching for food in the wild. Finding food required patience, effort, and skill. When they finally found something to eat, the brain released dopamine. This reward encouraged them to continue hunting, gathering, and solving problems. Dopamine also played a role in exploration. Curiosity helped humans discover new places, new tools, and better ways to live. Each successful discovery produced a reward in the brain, which strengthened the desire to keep learning and improving. The reward system therefore became a powerful engine for progress. It pushed humans to chase goals, overcome challenges, and build civilization. However, the modern world changed the environment around this system. Instead of rare rewards after hard effort, people now experience rewards instantly and repeatedly. Technology, entertainment, and digital platforms are designed to capture attention and deliver constant stimulation. Every time a person refreshes a social media feed, there's a possibility of seeing something new and exciting. This uncertainty creates a strong dopamine response. The brain becomes curious and continues checking again and again. Short videos are another example. Each clip provides quick entertainment, and before the brain has time to rest, another video begins playing. The cycle continues for minutes or hours. While dopamine signals keep firing in the brain, online games also use this system. Rewards, points, achievements, and visual effects appear frequently. The brain experiences continuous excitement, which encourages the player to keep going. These systems are not random. Many companies study human psychology carefully. They design products that maximize engagement by triggering the reward system again and again. The more time a person spends on a platform, the more valuable that attention becomes for the company. But while these platforms grow stronger, the human brain becomes overwhelmed by stimulation. When dopamine is released too frequently, the brain begins adjusting itself. It reduces sensitivity to the chemical. This means activities that once felt enjoyable begin to feel normal or even boring. Imagine a person eating sweet desserts every day. The taste buds slowly become used to the sugar. After some time, normal food may seem less satisfying. The same thing happens with dopamine stimulation. A person who spends hours watching exciting content may find it difficult to enjoy simple activities like reading, walking, or studying. The brain expects constant excitement and struggles with slower experiences. Consider the example of Hamza, who works in a busy office. Hamza often felt tired after work. To relax, he opened video platforms and watched short clips. One video turned into another and another. Sometimes he spent 3 or 4 hours watching content without realizing how. Quickly time passed when Hamza decided to read a book or learn a new skill. He felt impatient. His mind kept searching for faster entertainment. The book seemed slow and quiet compared to the rapid excitement of videos. Hamza believed he lacked motivation. But the truth was that his reward system had been trained to prefer instant stimulation. Another example is a young teenager named Bilal. Enjoyed playing games on his phone. The games rewarded him constantly with points, sounds, and visual effects. Each victory created excitement and satisfaction. When Bill tried to complete homework, he struggled to stay focused. The work required concentration and patience, while the game offered instant rewards. Over time, Bilal began delaying schoolwork more frequently. He did not realize that his brain had been conditioned to expect quick dopamine rewards rather than long-term effort. This does not mean dopamine itself is bad. In fact, dopamine is essential for progress. Athletes feel dopamine when they train hard and improve their performance. Entrepreneurs feel dopamine when they build a successful project. Students feel dopamine when they solve a difficult problem. The difference lies in how the reward is achieved. Healthy dopamine rewards usually follow effort, growth, and learning. They appear after the brain works toward a meaningful goal. Unhealthy dopamine patterns often involve instant pleasure without effort. These rewards may feel exciting at first, but they can weaken focus, motivation, and patience over time. Dopamine detox focuses on restoring balance in the reward system. It encourages people to reduce activities that produce constant, easy stimulation. When the brain experiences fewer artificial rewards, it slowly becomes sensitive again to natural satisfaction. Simple activities begin to feel enjoyable once more. Walking in nature, having a deep conversation, reading a book, or completing meaningful work can create genuine satisfaction. For example, Hamza decided to experiment with reducing digital entertainment during the evening. Instead of watching endless videos, he spent time exercising, reading, and reflecting on his goals. The first few days felt strange. His brain kept asking for quick stimulation. The silence of the evening felt uncomfortable. But after some time, Hamza noticed a change. His mind felt calmer. His sleep improved, and he began enjoying reading again. Bill experienced a similar transformation when his parents encouraged structured time without games. During those periods, he focused on homework, drawing, and outdoor activities. First, Bilal complained about boredom, but gradually his creativity returned. He started building small projects and exploring hobbies that once interested him. These examples show how flexible the brain can be. When the reward system is given time to reset, it becomes capable of finding joy in deeper and more meaningful experiences. Understanding dopamine is the foundation of dopamine detox. It reveals that many modern struggles with focus, motivation, and productivity are not simply personal weaknesses. They are natural responses to an environment filled with constant stimulation. Once a person recognizes this truth, they gain a new sense of control. Instead of blaming themselves, they begin changing their habits and environment to support a healthier balance. Journey toward dopamine detox continues by exploring another important question. What happens when constant stimulation disappears and the mind faces silence and boredom once again? Chapter 3. The discomfort of silence and boredom. Person begins the journey of dopamine detox. One of the first experiences they encounter is discomfort. The mind that has been surrounded by constant stimulation suddenly finds itself in a quieter environment, without endless notifications, videos, and digital excitement. the brain feels something it has not experienced for a long time: silence. At first, this silence does not feel peaceful. Instead, it may feel strange, empty, and even uncomfortable. The brain has been trained to expect constant input. Every moment used to be filled with something to watch, read, listen to, or react to. When that stimulation disappears, the mind begins searching for it automatically. This is the moment when many people feel boredom. In modern society, boredom is often seen as a negative experience. People try to escape it immediately. They open their phones, turn on music, watch television, or start scrolling through content. The goal is always the same: avoid the feeling of having nothing to do. But boredom has an important purpose in the human mind. Boredom is a signal that pushes the brain toward creativity, reflection, and meaningful action. When there is no stimulation, the mind begins searching deeper for something interesting or valuable to explore. For thousands of years, boredom helped humans invent tools, create stories, and discover new ideas. A person sitting quietly, without distraction, could observe the world, think about problems, and imagine solutions. Today, boredom rarely lasts long enough for this process to begin. The moment it appears, people escape into entertainment again. This habit slowly weakens the creative power of the mind. When the brain never experiences quiet moments, it loses the ability to generate deep thoughts and original ideas. Consider the example of Aisha, a university student studying design. Aisha loved creativity and dreamed of becoming a successful designer. However, she spent many hours each day on social media platforms looking at images, videos, and trends. At first, she believed this helped her stay inspired. But when she sat down to create her own designs, she felt stuck. Her mind struggled to produce new ideas. She constantly compared her work to what she had seen online and felt discouraged. One day, Aisha decided to take a break from social media for a few days. The first evening felt uncomfortable. Her hands reached for her phone again and again. She felt restless and unsure how to spend the time without digital entertainment. The room felt quiet and empty. But after some time, something unexpected happened. Her mind began wandering. She started thinking about color, shapes, and patterns. She picked up a notebook and began sketching simple ideas. Those sketches slowly turned into creative designs that felt original and exciting. Aisha realized that the silence she once avoided had allowed her mind to explore freely. Another example is a young professional named Imran. Imran worked long hours in a corporate office. Throughout the day, he constantly checked emails, messages, and news updates. When he returned home, he filled his evening with television shows and online videos. Imran often complained that he had no time to think about his personal goals. He wanted to start a small business, but never seemed to find the right idea. One weekend, Imran decided to try something different. He turned off most digital distractions and spent time walking alone in a nearby park. At first, the experience felt slow and uneventful, but as he continued walking, his mind began reflecting on his experiences at work. He started noticing problems that businesses around him faced. Slowly, an idea began forming in his mind. The quiet walk created space for his thoughts to organize and grow. Within weeks, Imran began developing a plan for his business. These examples show how boredom and silence can become powerful tools for growth. The brain needs empty space in order to process information, connect ideas, and imagine new possibilities. However, reaching this stage requires patience. When people first remove high stimulation activities, the brain reacts with resistance. The mind may feel restless, anxious, or impatient. This reaction happens because the Brain has been trained to depend on constant dopamine stimulation. When that stimulation disappears, the reward system temporarily feels unsatisfied during this phase. Many people feel the urge to return to old habits. They may tell themselves that dopamine detox is unnecessary or unrealistic, but this feeling is only temporary. With time, the brain begins adjusting to the new environment. The mind learns that not every moment requires stimulation. Silence becomes less uncomfortable and more peaceful. Gradually, people begin noticing small but meaningful changes. Their attention becomes stronger. They can sit with a task for longer periods without distraction. Their thoughts become clearer and more organized. Creativity also begins to return. Writers find themselves generating ideas more easily. Artists feel inspired to experiment with new concepts. Thinkers discover deeper insights during moments of quiet reflection. Another benefit of silence is emotional awareness. When distractions disappear, people begin noticing their thoughts and feelings more clearly. This awareness allows them to understand their goals, fears, and desires with greater honesty. For example, a young man named Farhan once filled every free moment with music, games, and online content. He believed these activities helped him relax. When he reduced those distractions, he began noticing how often he felt stressed about his career and uncertain about his future. The quiet moments forced him to face those emotions instead of escaping them. Although this realization felt uncomfortable at first, it eventually helped Farhan make important decisions about his life. He began planning his future more seriously and setting goals that aligned with his values. This shows that boredom and silence are not enemies. They are gateways to deeper understanding. When the mind stops running from discomfort, it begins discovering clarity, purpose, and creativity. Dopamine detox encourages people to welcome these quiet moments rather than fear them. Instead of asking how to escape boredom, a person can ask what the mind is trying to discover in that moment. The answer may be a new idea, a hidden passion, or a meaningful direction in life. As the journey continues, the next challenge appears: how constant digital stimulation slowly rewires the brain and changes the way people think, focus, and experience the world. Chapter 4: How constant stimulation rewires the brain. The human brain is one of the most adaptable systems in existence. It constantly changes according to the experiences and habits of a person. This ability is known as brain plasticity. It means the brain reshapes itself based on what it repeatedly does. A person practices a skill every day, the brain becomes stronger in that skill. If someone learns a language, the brain forms connections that help remember words and meanings. If a musician practices an instrument, the brain develops pathways that improve rhythm, memory, and coordination. This same process also happens with habits related to stimulation and distraction. When a person spends many hours each day jumping from one piece of content to another, the brain slowly adapts to that pattern. Instead of focusing deeply on one task, it becomes trained to switch attention quickly. This constant switching changes the way the brain processes information. In the past, many activities required sustained attention. Reading a book, solving a problem, writing a letter, or building something with hands required patience and concentration. These activities strengthen the brain ability to stay focused for long periods. Today, many digital platforms encourage the opposite behavior. A person scrolls through dozens of posts within minutes. Short videos appear one after another. Messages arrive constantly. Each piece of content competes for attention. Brain learns to expect something new every few seconds. Over time, this habit reduces the ability to concentrate deeply. the mind begins to feel restless. When an activity does not change quickly enough, the brain asks for novelty and stimulation again and again. Consider the example of a young programmer named Daniel. Daniel first started learning programming. He could sit for several hours exploring, code-solving problems and building small projects. His curiosity kept him engaged, even when tasks were challenging. But as his daily routine changed, he began spending more time on digital entertainment. He watched short videos during breaks, checked social media frequently, and followed online trends. Months later, Daniel noticed a surprising change. When he tried to study complex programming concepts, his attention drifted easily. After a few minutes, he felt the urge to open another tab, check messages, or watch something entertaining. The work it once felt exciting now seemed slow and difficult. Daniel believed he was losing his passion, but the real cause was deeper. His brain had adapted to rapid stimulation and found it difficult to remain in a slow-focused activity. Another example is a teacher named Nadia. Nadia loved reading and learning new ideas. In the past, she could finish several books each month and enjoyed reflecting on what she learned. However, as digital devices became part of her daily life, she began replacing reading time with online browsing. She moved quickly from one article to another, often without finishing any of them. When Nadia tried returning to long books, she found it hard to stay engaged. Her mind wandered frequently, and she needed to reread pages again and again. The brain had grown accustomed to scanning information rather than absorbing it deeply. This transformation happens gradually. So many people do not notice it immediately. They believe they are simply becoming busier or more tired, but in reality, their brain has been rewired by constant stimulation. The reward system also plays a role in this process. Each time a person finds something new or exciting, online dopamine is released. The brain learns to associate novelty with pleasure. Because of this, the mind begins seeking novelty, even when it interferes with meaningful tasks. A student working on an assignment may suddenly feel curious about a notification. A writer creating an article may feel tempted to check news updates. A worker preparing an important report may open social media. For just a moment that turns into many minutes, the brain follows the path of quick reward rather than long effort. This pattern can create frustration. Many people want to focus on their goals, but feel pulled toward distractions. They blame themselves for lacking discipline, while the real challenge lies in the habits that have trained their brain. Dopamine detox helps reverse this pattern by reducing unnecessary stimulation. When the brain is no longer flooded with constant novelty, it begins relearning how to focus. At first, the process feels uncomfortable. A person may experience restlessness or impatience because the brain is adjusting to a slower pace. But gradually, the mind starts rebuilding its ability to concentrate. For example, Daniel decided to restructure his daily routine. He limited short video consumption and created specific periods for focused programming practice. During those sessions, he turned off notifications and removed distractions. The first week felt difficult. His mind repeatedly searched for quick stimulation, but he continued practicing deep work sessions. After several weeks, Daniel noticed significant improvement. His concentration increased and complex coding tasks became enjoyable again. The brain had begun adapting to the new environment. Nadia experienced a similar transformation. She set aside 1 hour each evening for uninterrupted reading without digital interruptions. At first, she struggled to maintain focus, but slowly her attention span improved. Soon she rediscovered the joy of finishing books and exploring ideas in depth. Examples demonstrate how flexible the brain truly is. The same plasticity that allowed distraction habits to grow can also help rebuild focus and discipline, however. This transformation requires intention and consistency. A person must actively choose habits that support deeper engagement rather than constant stimulation. It also requires understanding that discomfort during the early stage of dopamine detox is normal. The brain is adjusting to a different rhythm of reward, one based on effort, learning, and meaningful progress. Over time, this new rhythm becomes stronger. The mind begins valuing achievements that come after patience and persistence rather than instant excitement. The rewiring of the brain, therefore, becomes a powerful turning point. Instead of being controlled by endless stimulation, people begin regaining ownership of their attention. Attention is one of the most valuable resources a person possesses. It shapes learning, creativity, relationships, and success. When attention is scattered, life becomes fragmented. When attention is focused, possibilities expand. Dopamine detox offers a path to reclaim that focus by allowing the brain to return to its natural balance. As this journey continues, another important question arises. Happens when a person begins removing high stimulation habits and starts rebuilding a life centered around purpose, discipline, and meaningful rewards. Chapter 5. The first step toward dopamine detox. Every meaningful change in life begins with a simple decision. A moment arrives when a person realizes that something in their daily routine is not helping them grow. The realization may appear quietly during a moment of reflection, or it may arrive through frustration after repeated struggles with focus, productivity, or motivation. For many people, the first step toward dopamine detox begins when they notice how much time disappears into activities that provide quick pleasure but little lasting value. Hours pass while scrolling through content, watching endless entertainment, or jumping from one digital platform to another. At the end of the day, the mind feels tired but unfulfilled. This moment of awareness is powerful because it creates the possibility of change. A person begins asking honest questions. Where did my time go today? Why do I feel distracted even when I want to concentrate? Why do simple tasks feel harder than they should? These questions are not meant to create guilt. They are meant to create understanding. When a person observes their habits clearly, they begin seeing patterns that were previously invisible. Consider the example of a college student named Zane had big dreams for his future. He wanted to complete his degree with excellent results and build a strong career. Yet every evening he found himself spending long hours on social media and online videos. At first, he believed this was normal relaxation after studying, but one night he looked at the screen time report on his phone and realized something surprising. Several hours had been spent on entertainment apps while his textbooks remained closed on the desk. Realization did not make him angry with himself. Instead, it made him curious. He began thinking about how those hours could have been used differently. This moment became the beginning of his dopamine detox journey. The first step was not extreme change. Zane did not delete every app or abandon technology completely. Instead, he began observing his behavior more carefully. Time he opened an entertainment app, he asked himself a simple question. Why am I doing this right now? Sometimes the answer was boredom. Sometimes it was stress from studying. Sometimes it was simply habit. By asking this question repeatedly, Zane became more aware of the invisible triggers that led him toward quick stimulation. Another example is a young office worker named Hina worked in a fast-paced corporate environment. During breaks, she often checked social media to relax. However, those short breaks often became long sessions of scrolling gone. Afternoon, she noticed that after spending time online, she felt mentally tired rather than refreshed. Her concentration during work decreased, and tasks took longer to complete. Hina decided to experiment with a small change. Instead of opening social media during breaks, she spent a few minutes walking outside the office building or simply sitting quietly. At first, the habit felt unusual. She sometimes felt tempted to return to her phone, but after several days, she noticed something interesting. Her mind felt calmer, and her focus during work improved. These small experiments represent the true beginning of dopamine detox. The process is not about strict rules or punishment. It is about exploring new habits that allow the brain to experience balance again. One helpful strategy during the first stage is reducing unnecessary notifications. Many digital platforms compete for attention by sending alerts throughout the day. Each notification acts like a small invitation for the brain to seek stimulation. When notifications are limited, the mind experiences fewer interruptions. This creates space for deeper concentration and calmer thinking. Another helpful practice is creating intentional moments without digital devices. For example, a person may decide that the first hour after waking up will be free from screens, instead of immediately entering the world of messages and updates. They begin the day with reflection, planning, or physical activity. This simple change often creates a powerful shift in mental clarity. Consider a writer named Cameron who struggled with distraction while working on his book. Each morning he planned to write for several hours, but often found himself checking messages and browsing online articles. One day, Cameron decided to begin his morning differently. He placed his phone in another room and started writing immediately after waking up. The first few days were challenging. His mind searched for the comfort of familiar distractions, but gradually he discovered that his creativity was strongest during those quiet morning hours. Within weeks, Cameron completed more pages of writing than he had in the previous several months. This experience taught him that removing stimulation at key moments can unlock hidden productivity. Another important element of the first step is patience. Many people expect immediate transformation, but the brain needs time to adjust. Habits that developed over months or years cannot disappear in a single day. During the early stage of dopamine detox, a person may feel occasional restlessness or boredom. This is a natural response as the brain adapts to reduced stimulation. Instead of viewing this discomfort as failure, it should be seen as progress. The mind is learning a new rhythm of attention and reward over time. These small adjustments create noticeable changes. Focus becomes stronger. Tasks that once felt overwhelming become manageable. The person begins experiencing satisfaction from completing meaningful work rather than chasing endless entertainment. Zan, the college student, eventually developed a routine where he studied with full concentration for specific periods and allowed limited time for entertainment afterward. This structure helped him maintain balance without feeling deprived. Hina, the office worker, continued her habit of taking mindful breaks and found that her work performance improved significantly. Her evenings also became more productive because she no longer felt mentally exhausted. These examples show that the first step toward dopamine detox does not require perfection. It simply requires awareness, curiosity, and a willingness to experiment with new habits. Each small decision to reduce unnecessary stimulation creates a ripple effect in the mind. Gradually, the brain begins rediscovering its natural ability to focus, create, and pursue meaningful goals. This stage of the journey teaches an important lesson. Real change rarely begins with dramatic actions. Instead, it grows from small conscious choices repeated every day. As these choices accumulate, the person begins moving closer to a life where attention is no longer controlled by endless distractions, but guided by purpose and intention. And with that new awareness, another question begins to emerge. What deeper transformations become possible when a person continues the dopamine detox journey and starts rebuilding their daily routine around focus, discipline, and meaningful fulfillment? Chapter 6: Breaking the Cycle of Instant Gratification. One of the most powerful forces shaping modern behavior is instant gratification. This concept describes the human desire to receive pleasure, reward, or satisfaction immediately without waiting or working for a long time. In earlier periods of human history, most rewards required patience. People had to work hard, hunt, grow food, build tools, or travel long distances before enjoying the result. Because of this, the brain developed patience as a natural part of life. Effort and reward were closely connected. The modern world changed this relationship dramatically. Today, many forms of pleasure arrive instantly. A person can open a phone and watch thousands of videos within minutes. They can order food with a few taps, receive messages immediately, and experience entertainment at any moment of the day. These conveniences make life easier, but they also train the brain to expect rewards without delay. When the brain becomes used to instant gratification, it begins struggling with activities that require patience. Long-term goals such as learning a skill, building a business, writing a book, or completing education demand consistent effort over time. These tasks rarely provide immediate excitement. Instead, they offer gradual progress that becomes meaningful only after many days or months of dedication. 4. A brain accustomed to instant rewards. This slow process can feel frustrating. The mind begins searching for quicker sources of pleasure, even when those distractions move a person further away from their goals. Consider the example of a young entrepreneur named Saad dreamed of starting his own online business. He spent many hours researching ideas and planning his future. However, whenever he tried to work seriously on his project, he found himself distracted by quick entertainment, short videos, and social media updates offered immediate excitement, while building a business required patience and problem solving. The contrast between these two experiences made the serious work feel heavy and difficult. Many evenings, Saad planned to work on his business, but ended up watching content online instead. Hours passed quickly, and his progress remained slow. One day, Saad realized that his biggest challenge was not lack of ideas or ability. It was the constant temptation of instant gratification. He decided to make a deliberate change. During his work sessions, he removed digital distractions and focused entirely on one task at a time. At first, the experience felt uncomfortable. The work seemed slower than watching entertainment, and his brain kept searching for quick rewards. But Saad continued practicing this habit. Every day he dedicated specific hours to deep, focused effort without interruptions. After several weeks, something remarkable happened. The work itself began feeling rewarding. Each completed step in his project produced a sense of achievement. His brain started associating effort with satisfaction. This transformation showed that the reward system can be retrained. Another example is a high school student named Miriam. Miriam enjoyed learning, but often struggled with procrastination. Whenever she had homework, she delayed starting it by checking social media or watching shows. The quick pleasure of entertainment always seemed more attractive than the challenge of studying. As deadlines approached, Miriam felt stress and anxiety because she had little time left to complete her work eventually. She decided to experiment with a simple method. She created a rule for herself. Whenever she started studying, she would focus for a fixed period without checking her phone. After completing the study session, she allowed herself a short break. First few sessions were difficult. Miriam often felt tempted to quit early, but she continued following the routine. Gradually, her brain adapted to the pattern. She began enjoying the feeling of finishing assignments early and understanding her lessons more deeply. Her confidence increased because she was no longer rushing through work at the last minute. These stories reveal an important truth: instant gratification weakens discipline, but discipline can rebuild patience and focus. Dopamine detox plays a crucial role in this process. By reducing exposure to constant easy rewards, the brain slowly regains its ability to appreciate delayed satisfaction. When a person steps away from endless stimulation, their mind begins rediscovering the value of effort. Achievements that require time and persistence start feeling more meaningful. This shift changes the way people approach life. Instead of chasing momentary excitement, they begin investing energy into activities that produce lasting fulfillment. For example, a person who once spent hours scrolling through entertainment may begin using that time to develop a skill such as writing, programming, painting, or learning a language. At first, the progress may seem slow, but each improvement builds confidence and motivation. The same principle applies to physical health. Someone who reduces time spent on passive entertainment may begin exercising regularly. The early sessions may feel challenging, but over time, the body grows stronger, and the mind experiences genuine satisfaction from physical improvement. Breaking the cycle of instant gratification does not mean eliminating pleasure from life. Instead, it means choosing pleasures that contribute to growth rather than distraction. Watching a meaningful film, enjoying time with friends, exploring nature, or celebrating progress after hard work are all forms of healthy reward. The difference lies in balance and intention. When pleasure follows effort, it strengthens motivation. When pleasure replaces effort, it weakens progress. Saad eventually launched his online business after months of focused work. His success did not happen overnight, but the journey taught him a powerful lesson. The satisfaction of building something meaningful was far greater than the temporary excitement of endless entertainment. Miriam completed her academic year with improved results and discovered that disciplined study created more free time for relaxation rather than less. Both of them learned that patience is not a burden, but a skill that unlocks deeper rewards. Process of dopamine detox, therefore, helps people move away from the trap of instant gratification and toward a life built on purposeful effort. As this transformation continues, another important question appears. Can a person design a daily routine that supports focused discipline and long-term fulfillment while living in a world full of constant distractions? Chapter 7. Designing a life that supports focus and meaning. After a person understands dopamine, the power of habits, and the danger of instant gratification, the next step in the journey becomes clear. Life must be designed in a way that supports focus, growth, and meaningful rewards. Many people believe discipline comes only from strong willpower. They think successful individuals simply force themselves to ignore distractions through pure determination. However, research and real life experience show a different truth. The environment around a person plays a powerful role in shaping behavior. If a room is full of distractions, the brain will naturally wander toward them. If a phone is always within reach, the hand will reach for it without thinking. If notifications appear every few minutes, the mind will constantly break its focus. Because of this, the design of daily life becomes one of the most important steps in dopamine detox instead of fighting distractions every minute. A person can build an environment where focus becomes easier and more natural. Consider the example of a university student named Hassan. Hassan struggled to concentrate while studying in his dorm room. His desk was surrounded by devices, entertainment, and constant noise from other students. Even when he wanted to focus, his attention was pulled in many directions. One day, Hassan decided to change his study environment. He began visiting a quiet library on campus, where phones were rarely used and people around him were studying seriously. The difference was immediate. The calm environment made it easier for him to stay focused for long periods. The presence of other focused students also created a sense of motivation. Hassan realized that changing the environment required less effort than constantly battling distractions in his dorm room. Another example is a graphic designer named Samina who worked from home. Samina loved her creative profession, but often found herself distracted by social media and online content during work hours. Her projects took longer than expected, and she sometimes felt frustrated with her productivity. After learning about dopamine detox, she decided to reorganize her workspace. She created a simple desk used only for creative work. She removed unnecessary devices and kept her phone in another room during design sessions. The change transformed her workflow. Without constant digital interruptions, she entered a deeper creative state. Her ideas flowed more naturally, and she completed projects faster. Samina discovered that focus is not only a mental skill, but also a result of the environment surrounding the mind. Designing a supportive environment also includes structuring time intentionally. When every hour of the day is unplanned, the brain easily drifts toward easy stimulation. But when time is organized with clear periods for work, rest, and learning, the mind gains direction. For example, a young teacher named Usman struggled with procrastination when preparing lesson plans. He often delayed his work by browsing the internet or watching videos. Eventually, Usman created a simple routine every evening. He dedicated a specific hour to planning lessons. During that time, he turned off unnecessary notifications and focused only on educational preparation. After completing the task, he rewarded himself with relaxation or entertainment. This structure helped Usman break the cycle of procrastination because his brain learned to associate the evening hour with productive work. Over time, the habit became automatic and required less effort to maintain. Another important element of life design is protecting the most valuable periods of mental energy. Many people notice that their focus is strongest during certain hours of the day. For some, it is early morning, while for others, it may be late evening. These high-energy periods should be reserved for meaningful tasks rather than distractions. Consider the example of a writer named Farah, who discovered that her creativity was strongest in the early morning. When she used those hours for social media or casual browsing, her best mental energy disappeared. After recognizing this pattern, she created a rule. The first hours of the day would be dedicated to writing without any digital interruptions. This simple change dramatically increased her productivity and allowed her to complete chapters of her book much faster. Life design also includes creating space for rest, reflection, and physical movement. Dopamine detox is not about constant work without relaxation. Instead, it encourages balanced activities that refresh the mind naturally. Walking in nature, exercising, reading meaningful books, or having thoughtful conversations can restore mental energy without overwhelming the reward system. For instance, a software developer named Arif, replaced part of his evening screen time with daily walks in a nearby park. During those walks, he often reflected on ideas, problems, and personal goals. Quiet moments helped him think more clearly and sometimes led to creative solutions for challenges in his work. Over time, Arif realized that his best ideas often appeared when his mind was calm, rather than overloaded with stimulation. Designing a focused life also requires choosing the right influences. The people around us shape our habits, attitudes, and ambitions. When a person spends time with individuals who value growth, learning, and discipline, they naturally adopt similar behaviors. On the other hand, constant exposure to negative or distracting influences can weaken motivation. For example, Hassan, the university student, eventually formed a study group with classmates who shared similar academic goals. The regular sessions encouraged each member to remain committed to their studies. Group created a supportive environment where productivity felt normal rather than forced. These examples demonstrate that dopamine detox is not only about removing distractions, it is about building a life where meaningful activities become the easiest and most natural choice. When the environment supports focus, the mind does not need to fight temptation every minute. Instead, it flows toward productive habits almost automatically. Over time, this design leads to remarkable transformation. Tasks that once felt difficult become part of daily routine. Creativity grows stronger. Goals that once seemed distant begin moving closer to reality. A life designed with intention allows attention, energy, and time to align with purpose. And when these elements align, something powerful begins to happen. The mind not only escapes the trap of constant distraction, but also begins unlocking its full potential for growth, achievement, and fulfillment. As the journey continues, the next challenge becomes understanding how habits are formed and how they can be reshaped to support long-term success through dopamine. Detox Chapter 8: The Power of Habits and How the Brain Learns. Behavior. Every action a person repeats begins shaping the brain in a quiet but powerful way. These repeated actions slowly turn into habits. Habits are behaviors that the brain performs almost automatically without requiring much conscious effort. They are like invisible programs running in the background of daily life. People wake up in the morning, brush their teeth, check their phone, drink tea, or begin their work routine. Many of these actions happen through habit rather than deliberate decision. The brain has learned the pattern and repeats it efficiently. Habits are important because they allow the brain to save energy. If every small action required deep thinking, the mind would become exhausted very quickly. Instead, the brain stores repeated behaviors as automatic routines. This ability is useful when habits support growth and productivity, but it becomes dangerous when habits lead toward constant distraction. An easy stimulation. Dopamine plays a significant role in the formation of habits. Whenever a behavior produces pleasure or relief, the brain releases dopamine. This chemical reward tells the brain that the behavior is valuable and should be repeated again in the future. Over time, the brain begins expecting the reward and performs the behavior almost automatically. Consider the example of a young accountant named Billo developed a habit of checking his phone every few minutes during work. At first, he did it occasionally when he felt bored or curious about new messages. Each time he discovered something interesting online, his brain experienced a small dopamine reward. After many repetitions, the behavior became automatic. Even when there were no notifications, Bilal felt an urge to check his phone. The habit had become part of his routine. Bilal did not consciously decide to interrupt his work so often. His brain had simply learned the pattern through repeated rewards. Another Example is a college student named Sana. Sana often studied late at night. When she felt tired, she opened social media for a short break. The quick entertainment helped her escape the stress of studying. However, those short breaks often turned into long sessions of scrolling. Through repetition, her brain learned to associate study stress with the reward of digital entertainment. Eventually, whenever she began studying, her mind expected the same escape. This made it difficult for her to maintain focus for long periods. These stories show how habits can grow quietly through small repeated actions. The brain does not judge whether a habit is helpful or harmful. It simply strengthens whatever behavior produces a reward. This is why dopamine detox focuses on changing patterns rather than relying only on motivation. Motivation can disappear during moments of fatigue, stress, or boredom. But habits continue operating even when motivation fades. To reshape habits, a person must understand the simple cycle that forms them. Every habit usually follows 3 stages. First stage is the trigger. The trigger is a situation or feeling that signals the brain to begin a behavior. It could be boredom, stress, curiosity, or a specific time of day. The second stage is the action. This is the behavior itself, such as opening a phone, watching videos, or eating snacks. The third stage is the reward. The brain receives pleasure, relief, or excitement and releases dopamine. This reward strengthens the connection between the trigger and the action. When this cycle repeats many times, the habit becomes automatic. Breaking unhealthy habits therefore requires changing one or more parts of the cycle. For example, Bill realized that boredom during work triggered his habit of checking the phone. Instead of trying to fight the urge every minute, he changed the environment. He placed his phone in a drawer and checked it only during scheduled breaks. By removing the easy access, he interrupted the automatic action. Part of the habit cycle. Sana addressed her habit differently. She recognized that stress during study sessions triggered her need for digital escape. Instead of opening social media, she began taking short walks or stretching for a few minutes. These alternative actions provided relaxation without flooding her brain with excessive stimulation. Over time, her mind learned a new habit pattern where stress led to physical movement rather than endless scrolling. Another powerful method for building positive habits is linking them with existing routines. When a new behavior is connected to something the brain already performs regularly, becomes easier to remember and repeat. For instance, a young engineer named Rahim wanted to read more books, but struggled to create time for it. Instead of waiting for free moments, he linked reading to his evening tea routine. Each day, after preparing tea, he spent 20 minutes reading before doing anything else, because the tea habit already existed. The new reading habit slowly attached itself to the same routine. After several weeks, Rahim found himself naturally reaching for a book whenever he sat down with his evening tea. This method demonstrates how habits can grow step by step without requiring extreme effort. Dopamine detox strengthens these positive patterns because it reduces the influence of instant stimulation. When the brain receives fewer artificial rewards, it becomes more responsive to natural satisfaction from meaningful activities. Completing a task, learning a new skill, exercising, or creating something valuable begins producing genuine motivation. Brain gradually rewires itself around behaviors that lead to growth rather than distraction. However, patience is essential during this transformation. Habits that developed over many years cannot disappear immediately. The brain needs time to weaken old pathways and strengthen new ones. During this period, occasional setbacks may happen. A person may return to old distractions for a short time, but these moments should not be viewed as failure. They are part of the learning process. Each attempt to practice a healthier habit strengthens the brain slightly more. Eventually, the new behavior becomes automatic, just like the old one once was. Bill slowly replaced his constant phone checking with focused work sessions and scheduled breaks. His productivity improved, and he felt less mentally exhausted. At the end of the day, Sana developed stronger study habits and discovered that learning became easier when her attention remained steady. Rahim completed several books within a few months and gained knowledge that inspired new personal and professional goals. These changes were not the result of sudden motivation, but the outcome of carefully reshaping daily habits. The power of habits proves that small repeated actions create large long-term results. A few minutes of focus each day can eventually become hours of productive work. A small step toward discipline can grow into a life of meaningful achievement. Dopamine detox, therefore, becomes more than a temporary experiment. It becomes a foundation for building habits that guide the mind toward clarity, creativity, and purpose. As the journey continues, the next chapter explores another powerful transformation. What happens to the mind when it begins rediscovering deep focus and enters the state where creativity, learning, and productivity reach their highest potential? Chapter 9. Rediscovering deep focus and flow. One of the most remarkable transformations during dopamine detox is the rediscovery of deep focus. Deep focus occurs when the mind is fully immersed in a task without distraction. The person feels present, engaged, and connected to the work at hand. Time seems to move differently, and small obstacles do not disrupt concentration. Psychologists and neuroscientists describe this state as flow is a condition where the brain operates efficiently, absorbing information, solving problems, and generating ideas at a high level. The experience is often accompanied by a sense of satisfaction and effortless engagement. In modern life, flow has become rare. Many people are constantly interrupted by notifications, messages, and alerts. Every task, even simple ones, competes with the brain's desire for rapid stimulation. Dopamine detox helps recreate the conditions for flow by reducing unnecessary stimulation and teaching the mind to enjoy sustained attention. Consider the example of a young musician named Ariba. Loved playing the piano, but recently found it difficult to practice for long periods. Her mind kept drifting toward her phone or online videos. She felt frustrated and believed her passion was fading. After learning about dopamine detox, she decided to experiment. She removed her phone from the room during practice sessions and dedicated 1 hour each day to uninterrupted playing. At first, her mind wandered frequently. She struggled to focus on the notes and rhythms and became impatient. But after several days of consistent practice, something remarkable happened. Her mind settled into the music. She began noticing subtle tones, experimenting with expression, and improvising naturally. Ariba experienced flow. The practice felt effortless yet productive, and the joy she once felt while playing returned. Another example is an architect named Imran. Often worked on complex building designs, but found that constant digital interruptions slowed him down. His sketches remained incomplete, and solutions to problems seemed harder to find. He decided to create focused work blocks, during which he turned off notifications and closed unrelated applications. During these blocks, Imran entered deep concentration. His mind connected ideas faster, visualized structures more clearly, and discovered solutions that had eluded him for weeks. The experience of deep focus is not limited to creative work. It applies to learning, professional projects, problem solving, and personal development. Students like Mariam, who previously struggled to study for long periods, found that removing phone distractions allowed her mind to absorb information more efficiently. She could read chapters in one sitting and recall details accurately during exams. Deep focus also strengthens the brain over time. The neural pathways associated with sustained attention become stronger, making concentration easier in the future. The contrast between flow and distraction is striking. When distracted, tasks feel slow, tedious, and frustrating. The brain searches for the next burst of stimulation, leaving the person mentally exhausted and unfulfilled. When in flow, even challenging tasks feel engaging. The mind is energized. Time passes quickly, and work becomes intrinsically rewarding. Achieving this state requires consistent practice and the right conditions. The first step is reducing high stimulation activities that train the brain to expect constant rewards. The second step is structuring time intentionally, creating dedicated periods for focused work, study, or creative projects allows the mind to adapt gradually without being overwhelmed. Physical and mental preparation also matters. A clean workspace, comfortable posture, sufficient light, and a calm environment support focus. Small rituals, like preparing a cup of tea or organizing tools before starting work, signal the brain that it is time for concentration. Over time, the brain begins to associate these cues with focused effort, making entry into flow easier. Another key aspect is patience. At first, deep focus may feel challenging, uncomfortable, or unnatural. The mind has been trained to expect quick rewards and constant novelty. When these disappear, restlessness or boredom can appear. However, as the brain adapts, the discomfort fades and concentration becomes increasingly natural. The benefits of rediscovering deep focus are profound. Tasks are completed more efficiently. Learning becomes deeper. Creativity flourishes, and the mind experiences satisfaction from effort rather than distraction. People often notice improvements in other areas of life as well. Sleep quality improves because the brain is less overstimulated. Stress decreases as the mind spends less time chasing fleeting pleasure. Confidence grows because achievements become tangible and meaningful. Araba, Imran, and Mariam all experienced these benefits after dedicating themselves to consistent focus practices. Their examples show that dopamine detox is not just about avoiding distractions. It is about retraining the brain to work deeply, enjoy sustained effort, and discover satisfaction in meaningful achievement. Once a person experiences flow regularly, life begins to feel more productive, creative, and fulfilling. The next chapter will explore another important dimension of dopamine detox, how it enhances creativity, problem solving, and the ability to generate new ideas by allowing the mind space and clarity to operate at its full potential. Chapter 10. How dopamine detox enhances creativity and problem solving. One of the most powerful effects of dopamine detox is its impact on creativity and problem solving. In modern life, the mind is constantly occupied with quick stimulation. Notifications, messages, videos, and digital content occupy attention every few seconds, leaving little space for original thought. Creativity requires mental space and the freedom to explore ideas without interruption. When the brain is overloaded with constant stimulation, it struggles to connect concepts or imagine new possibilities. Dopamine detox creates that space by reducing exposure to instant rewards. The mind is allowed to wander, reflect, and experiment freely. Consider the example of a young designer named Layla. Layla worked at a small creative agency, She loved designing logos and visual concepts, but recently found that her ideas felt repetitive and uninspired. She spent hours scrolling through social media for inspiration, but nothing felt original after learning about dopamine detox. She decided to limit her digital consumption during work hours. She set aside specific blocks of time for design work and removed unnecessary notifications at first. The absence of constant stimulation felt uncomfortable. Her mind repeatedly reached for quick entertainment, but she persisted over time. Layla noticed that ideas began flowing naturally. She started experimenting with new shapes, colors, and concepts that she had not considered before. The quiet and focused environment allowed her brain to make connections between different experiences and knowledge she had acquired previously. Another example is a student named Omar struggled with writing essays. He felt stuck whenever he sat down to develop arguments or think critically about topics. He often turned to online content for a quick mental break, which only delayed progress. After beginning dopamine detox, Omar started dedicating uninterrupted blocks of time to brainstorming and outlining his essays. He limited digital distractions and allowed himself to think without rushing. Gradually, he began producing unique ideas, connecting concepts across subjects, and developing arguments more effectively. These examples demonstrate that creativity is not simply a talent reserved for a few people. It is a skill that thrives in the right conditions. Mental space, focus, and the absence of constant stimulation are essential for creative thinking. Problem solving works in a similar way. When the mind is overwhelmed by rapid stimulation, it tends to favor easy, habitual solutions rather than exploring deeper strategies. Reducing dopamine-driven distractions allows the brain to engage in sustained attention, consider multiple perspectives, and analyze complex problems. Thoroughly consider a software developer named Sama often faced coding challenges at work. She noticed that her solutions were becoming repetitive and error-prone. Constant notifications and quick digital breaks prevented her from thinking deeply about the architecture of her projects. After implementing dopamine detox principles, she created focused coding sessions without distractions and used quiet periods to brainstorm potential solutions before writing a single line of code. The results were remarkable. Her problem-solving became faster, more accurate, and more innovative. Dopamine detox also helps the brain balance between divergent and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is the ability to generate many possible ideas and explore multiple solutions. Convergent thinking is the ability to focus on the most effective solution among them when the mind is constantly stimulated by quick rewards. Divergent thinking is often stifled because the brain seeks immediate pleasure rather than exploring multiple possibilities. By reducing distractions, the brain regains its natural curiosity and willingness to experiment. For instance, Layla found that she could sketch multiple concepts for a single project without feeling restless. Omar discovered he could outline different approaches for an essay and select the best one. Sima could brainstorm coding solutions in advance, allowing her to choose the most efficient approach. Another important aspect is patience. Creativity and problem solving often require the mind to sit with uncertainty for a period of time. The brain must explore different paths, discard some, and refine others. Dopamine detox strengthens the ability to tolerate this mental discomfort because the brain is no longer addicted to instant gratification. Over time, the mind becomes more confident in exploring new ideas and solving complex problems. The combination of focus, mental space, and reduced stimulation leads to noticeable transformation projects that once felt overwhelming become approachable. Ideas that seemed out of reach become accessible. Tasks that previously required immense effort feel more manageable and rewarding. Creativity is no longer a rare or unpredictable gift. It becomes a natural byproduct of a mind trained to focus, reflect, and work patiently. Dopamine detox, therefore, not only improves productivity and attention, but also cultivates innovation, imagination, and problem-solving ability. Chapter 11. Building emotional resilience and mental well-being. While dopamine detox is often associated with focus, productivity, and creativity, one of its most profound effects is on emotional resilience and mental well-being. Modern life constantly bombards the mind with stimuli that promise quick pleasure, but often leave people feeling restless, anxious, or unfulfilled when the brain is accustomed to instant rewards. Small frustrations or delays can feel overwhelming. A person may experience mood swings, irritability, or stress in situations that were previously manageable. This happens because the reward system has been conditioned to seek constant pleasure rather than tolerate discomfort. Dopamine detox helps retrain the brain to respond more calmly to everyday challenges. Consider the example of a young professional named Sarah. Sarah worked long hours at a marketing firm. She often felt anxious and stressed. Her evenings were spent scrolling through social media or binge-watching videos to escape tension. Despite these distractions, she noticed her anxiety persisted. The quick pleasures of her digital activities provided temporary relief, but did not address the underlying emotional fatigue. After learning about dopamine detox, Sarah implemented periods during her day with no screens. She practiced mindfulness exercises, took walks, and spent time reflecting on her goals and emotions. At first, she felt uncomfortable. The absence of constant entertainment made her notice stress and worry more clearly than before. But gradually, she discovered that facing these emotions without distraction allowed her to process them effectively. Over time, Sarah became calmer. She could handle work pressure more confidently, make decisions without overthinking, and respond to challenges without immediate frustration. Another example is a university student named Amdam. Often procrastinated on assignments and exams. He would check his phone or play games whenever he felt overwhelmed by study tasks. These habits provided short-term relief, but increased stress in the long run because deadlines approached without progress. By implementing dopamine detox principles, Ahmed created structured study periods with minimal distractions and allowed himself short breaks for relaxation. Rather than constant digital consumption, he also started journaling to process thoughts and emotions consciously rather than letting them build unnoticed. As weeks passed, Ahmed noticed improved emotional stability. He felt less anxious about exams, more in control of his time, and experienced satisfaction from completing tasks rather than avoiding them. Emotional resilience also improves relationships. When a person is constantly seeking quick stimulation, attention and energy are often pulled away from meaningful interactions. Friends, family, and colleagues may feel neglected, and social connections weaken. Dopamine detox encourages people to be fully present in interactions rather than distracted by digital stimuli. Consider Hina, a young mother who spent much of her day checking her phone during her child's playtime. After limiting phone use and focusing on being present with her child, she noticed that interactions became more joyful and meaningful. Her child responded with increased engagement, and Hina felt satisfaction that no amount of social media could replicate. The brain also begins to regulate mood more naturally during dopamine detox by reducing reliance on artificial bursts of pleasure. The mind becomes more sensitive to simple, real-life rewards. A morning walk, a conversation with a friend, or a small accomplishment at work begins to produce genuine satisfaction. Over time, this helps reduce anxiety, improve overall mood, and increase the sense of fulfillment in daily life. Another key benefit is improved patience by learning to tolerate moments of boredom or discomfort without turning to quick digital rewards. The brain strengthens the ability to remain calm in challenging situations. For example, Farhan, a software developer, noticed that previously minor frustrations at work, slow computers, tight deadlines, or difficult code would leave him agitated. After practicing dopamine detox, he became more tolerant of delays and unexpected problems. His mind could focus on solutions rather than reacting emotionally to obstacles. This increased patience not only improves mental well-being, but also enhances long-term decision-making because the brain no longer seeks instant emotional relief. Emotional resilience and mental well-being also support other areas of growth. A calm, focused, and emotionally regulated mind is better able to sustain attention, engage in creative problem-solving, and build productive habits. Dopamine detox, therefore, is not only a tool for productivity, but a holistic approach to personal growth. It teaches the mind how to experience pleasure naturally, respond to challenges without anxiety, and find satisfaction in meaningful achievements. Sarah, Ahmed, Hina, and Farhan all discovered that as their mental well-being improved, their confidence, focus, and happiness increased simultaneously. This stage of the journey shows that the benefits of dopamine detox extend far beyond reducing distractions. It reshapes how a person experiences life, fostering calm, resilience, and genuine fulfillment. Next chapter will explore practical techniques and daily routines that reinforce these changes and help maintain long-term progress on the dopamine detox journey. Chapter 12: Practical Techniques to Maintain Dopamine Detox. Understanding dopamine detox and experiencing its benefits is only the beginning. Sustaining these changes requires practical strategies and daily routines that support focus, creativity, and emotional resilience. Without deliberate techniques, the mind naturally drifts back toward old habits and constant stimulation. The first technique is structured digital usage completely. Eliminating technology is neither realistic nor necessary. Instead, it is about creating intentional boundaries. For example, a professional named Yasser limited social media usage to 30 minutes per day during scheduled periods. He turned off notifications for all non-essential apps and removed distracting apps from his main screen. The result was immediate. He regained several hours of productive time and felt less mental fatigue. A second technique is time blocking. Time blocking involves scheduling specific periods for focused work, study, creativity, or rest. A student like Zara might dedicate 90 minutes in the morning to reading and assignments without any digital interruptions. Then she can allow herself a 15-minute break for stretching or checking messages. This structure trains the brain to focus during designated periods and relax during breaks, creating a balance between effort and reward. Mindfulness and meditation are another powerful technique. Practicing mindfulness helps the brain remain present rather than constantly seeking stimulation. Layla, a young designer, began a 10-minute meditation practice each morning. She noticed that her mind wandered less during work and that creative ideas emerged more naturally. Physical movement also reinforces dopamine. Detox: walking, running, yoga, or other forms of exercise release natural dopamine and other chemicals that improve mood and focus without overstimulating the brain. Seema, a software developer, replaced evening screen time with 30 minutes of walking in the park. She found that this not only reduced the urge for digital entertainment, but also improved her sleep and mental clarity. Journaling and reflection are equally important. By writing thoughts, emotions, and goals in a journal, a person processes experiences consciously instead of allowing the brain to react impulsively to stimuli. A college student began journaling each evening. He reflected on tasks completed, challenges faced, and ideas for improvement. Over weeks, he noticed increased emotional stability and motivation. Gradual exposure to stimulation is another technique. Dopamine detox is most effective when introduced progressively rather than sudden. Extreme abstinence: a person can slowly reduce high stimulation activities. For example, Hina limited entertainment apps by half in the first week, then further reduced usage in subsequent weeks. She combined this with structured work and breaks, allowing her brain to adjust comfortably. Reward substitution helps maintain motivation instead of seeking digital rewards. Individuals can replace them with meaningful alternatives. Saad, an entrepreneur, rewarded himself with short walks or a cup of tea after completing focused work sessions rather than checking social media. Creating supportive environments is essential. Workspaces free from distraction, quiet rooms for study, and areas for creative work enhance focus. Automatically, Imran, an architect, organized his desk to have only necessary tools for drafting plans. He removed his phone and unrelated materials, making concentration easier. Tracking progress strengthens commitment. Using a journal, calendar, or app to note completed tasks, hours of focused work, and personal achievements provides tangible evidence of improvement. Sign, a university student, kept a simple log of study hours and projects completed. He noticed gradual improvement, which motivated him to maintain the dopamine detox routine. Finally, social accountability reinforces change. Sharing goals with friends, family, or colleagues creates external support and encouragement. Hassan, a student, formed a study group where members kept each other accountable for focus sessions and breaks. The group environment naturally reduced distractions and increased commitment. By combining these techniques, dopamine detox becomes sustainable rather than temporary. The brain gradually relearns to value effort, creativity, and meaningful rewards, while minimizing reliance on instant stimulation. Consistent practice strengthens habits, enhances focus, nurtures creativity, and builds emotional resilience. Over time, these techniques transform the way a person experiences daily life, making productivity, learning, and fulfillment natural rather than forced. Conclusion: transforming life through dopamine detox. Dopamine detox is more than a temporary experiment or a trend. It is a deliberate journey toward reclaiming attention, focus, and personal fulfillment. Modern life bombards the mind with constant stimulation, teaching the brain to seek instant pleasure rather than long-term satisfaction. Over time, this pattern can reduce motivation, creativity, patience, and emotional resilience. Through dopamine detox, individuals learn to pause, reflect, and create mental space for meaningful engagement. By reducing exposure to high stimulation activities and rebuilding habits intentionally, the brain begins rediscovering its natural capacity for focus, deep learning, and creativity. The journey begins with awareness, noticing patterns of distraction, understanding triggers, and recognizing how instant rewards shape behavior. It continues with small deliberate steps, like structured digital usage, intentional routines, mindfulness, and supportive environments. These actions help retrain the brain, gradually replacing old, unproductive habits with new behaviors that reinforce focus, patience, and growth. As the mind adjusts, the benefits multiply. Deep focus and flow become accessible, allowing tasks that once felt tedious to become engaging and rewarding. Creativity and problem-solving improve because the brain has space to explore, reflect, and connect ideas. Emotional resilience strengthens as individuals learn to tolerate discomfort, process feelings, and derive satisfaction from meaningful achievement. Stories from students, professionals, creatives, and entrepreneurs show that dopamine detox is not about eliminating technology or pleasure, but about creating balance. It empowers people to reclaim control over their attention, prioritize meaningful activities, and live intentionally rather than reactively. Over time, this journey fosters a life where attention, energy, and effort align with personal goals and values. Productivity, learning, and creativity are no longer fleeting or forced. They become natural outcomes of a well-trained, balanced mind. Ultimately, dopamine detox is a pathway to freedom from distraction and instant gratification. It is a strategy to unlock the mind's full potential, cultivate patience, and rediscover genuine joy in effort and achievement. By committing to the principles of dopamine detox, anyone can create a life that is focused, intentional, and deeply fulfilling, transforming daily habits into a foundation for long-term growth, purpose, and happiness. The end.
Kindly subscribe to my channel.